Only two. Let's do everything.
Yeah, we are live. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, everyone. First of all, apologies. Really, we apologize for our lateness here because we have a technical problem and we still have it. But regardless, we decided to come online. And if you see anything, if you're not hearing us good or anything, let us know in the chat section. But yeah, we are here again on daily basis as we have been doing for the past 10 days, updating you on the issues in Niger, and sometimes also bringing some other things. But this is really a hot topic in a sense, really a very important. It needs to be addressed on a daily basis, if not hourly. Yeah, this is our duty as a Pan-African platform to bring you things before the Western media get away with it and feed you their own propaganda. We have to own our own narrative. So today we are going to discuss the deadline of ECOWAS. The ultimatum has passed. It was yesterday. And so what next on Niger? What's ECOWAS going to do? Why we are not hearing from the African Union? And other things. And also the chief of staffs have been, they have had a meeting, meaning the militaries of ECOWAS, and what is the resolution for that and the way forward. These are the things, if we can, hopefully if things go smoothly with our technical matters, we are going to address. So we have here, as usual, Kwame. Welcome, Kwame.
Thank you, Mahlet. Thank you so much, and greetings and regards to everyone who's watching. As Mahlet has mentioned, our purpose is to bring a new dimension to what is happening in Niger and actually across all the continent. We are very much interested in our continent. And why are we doing this? We are doing this because in the past, the narrative that has been going around is the Western narrative, and that narrative has majorly been false. Uh, it has been a dangerous narrative to the African people. The purpose has been to brainwash the African people. That is why these alternative platforms, or these Pan-African platforms, which should be actually the mainstream. Our Pan-African platforms should not be alternative, but they should be the mainstream. But it's unfortunate, of course, that the imperialists now, they are the ones who have the mainstream platforms. But that is what, of course, we have come to correct, because there is that gap. Then we have decided to accept the challenge since when Mahlet launched this platform. We accepted the challenge that we can be able to correct that narrative and then present an alternative point of view, which is Pan-African in nature and in outlook. And so we are trying to make our narrative mainstream, and we can only do it with the help of you people who are watching out there. What are the Africans thinking? Because we have noticed that the majority who are the Africans and who own this continent have been silenced many times, as we are seeing even right now in Niger, that the majority of the people, they have become silenced. They have been silenced by the Western media and their puppets on the continent. So now, and we want to talk about what the majority are thinking and how they are seeing things. And that is what we represent as a platform. So thank you very much, everyone who is supporting the platform. So that is where it all begins. You are the people who can make us mainstream, and that is why we are looking for that million subscribers on the platform. So we can only do that with the help of you people who are watching us. So we want to thank you once again for being part of us. Try and invite other people to come, and then we can dialogue. We will not only dialogue, as we have said, we are always pushing forward, working with other platforms and other organizations to push forward the Pan-African agenda. So once again, thank you so much. Back to you, Mahlet.
Thank you very much, Kwame, for that introduction, and of course for inviting the people to share with us. So here we have Black. Welcome. You are the first, and thank you for reminding the viewers to subscribe, like, and share. Yeah, that's
It's
what
a call to action, Mahlet.
Eh?
It's a call to action. It's a call to action. I'm calling
Yeah.
people so that they can be active.
Exactly. Okay. Good then. Yeah. Now let's go to let's just jump into this. The deadline that ECOWAS have given to the coupists, the co-leaders in Niger, have passed. It was yesterday, and we are not so far. The only thing that came out from Niger is that they have closed their airspace, and we just lost Kwame, but I think he's here. Yeah, so the only thing we have heard is that Niger has closed its airspace. And the Western media, I don't know if you have noticed, is trying to intimidate ECOWAS by kind of, some of them even with the title. Later on, if I have them, I will try to share with you by putting like ECOWAS has lost its credibility to who? Anyway, these are the things we are seeing after the deadline has passed. So and also the meeting of the militaries of ECOWAS. Please, can you update us on us for us? What was the resolution of this military chief of staff meeting of the ECOWAS? And at this deadline, what is at stake?
Yes, thank you, Mahlet. The last week, by the end of Friday, there was, of course, a meeting, I think until Saturday, by the military chief of staffs of ECOWAS. And their purpose, of course, the purpose was to come up with resolutions for what to do about the coup which happened in Niger. That is the group of ECOWAS. And according to them, by the end of Friday, they claimed that the solution, the military solution, is not off the table, but they are, encouraging the diplomats or the politicians and the presidents to first explore the diplomatic and political means before they would implement the military solution, which would be the solution of last resort. But all this is coming on the head of an already divided ECOWAS. If you look at the group of 14 countries, many of them are not in support of the military solution. And of course, even after they carried out this meeting in Nigeria, after they came up with these resolutions, Tinubu, of course, pushed forward to try to go to the Nigerian Senate to ask for permission to intervene militarily in Niger by force, even though the military has the military chief of staffs had already come up with their resolutions and said, let us explore more on the military front. And of course, fortunately, for Tinubu, when he wrote to the Nigerian Senate, when they voted on it, they rejected Tinubu's approach of a military, force, of using military force in Niger. Now, what is happening in ECOWAS itself? There's a lot of divisions. There's some countries, about 3 divisions in there. Some countries are outrightly against this intervention, this military intervention, the so-called military intervention in Niger. Some countries are in support, and then there's countries which are in support, but they are not willing to contribute military forces. And I'll try to break that down. One of those countries which are of course, majority of them are condemning the coup. Majority of the countries in ECOWAS, and of course, even across the continent, are condemning the coup. But some of them are not willing to contribute military force towards going to Niger to invade the country and force it in a Western style, force the so-called democracy on it from the West. Now, these countries in that group, you can find Chad. We remember that the president of Chad went to Niger to try to negotiate for a resolution. There's Chad in that group. There is Ghana also. It has not committed troops to this. Togo, we have not had it also commit troops. On the other side, we have countries which are outrightly against it, even though they even attended this meeting, which happened in Nigeria. In that group, we have Senegal. Senegal is outrightly against this. Not Senegal, sorry. Liberia of George Weah is against it. We have Guinea is against it. And of course, Mali is against it. Burkina Faso is against it. And now, when we go to the countries which are up for this, we have Senegal, we have Ivory Coast, we have Nigeria, and then we have had Benin. But even for Benin itself, I hear that the president of Benin, the elders, the cultural elders in Benin, they told him that it is not, acceptable for him to go to send military into Niger, because these are our brothers. There's no reason why we should go to invade them with military and force them to do something, which we think, or which is even being pressurized from outside. So this was what was said in Benin. Now, if you look at the whole thing, you can see that ECOWAS is very disorganized. You have only about 4 countries out of 14 countries which are supposed to support this military, action in Niger, to go to Niger and force Niger in imperialist style, in American imperialist style and European style, to force something which does not exist in majority of these countries. Actually, if you look at Nigeria itself, it still has an election that is being contested. Tinubu has not been approved 100%. His election is still contested in court. The court has not come out with a verdict whether he's a legitimate president or is an illegitimate president. That is a problem. We have a problem in Senegal itself. We have huge problems there. President Macky Sall himself, he's been blocking the opposition. So these are undemocratic, tactics which he has been doing, which he has been using. And when we go to Ivory Coast, we have Ouattara also, who is in support of this coup. Who is in support of a military action against the coup. Ouattara himself also can be looked at also as an illegitimate president, because he took by force. He amended the constitution. You can say that he came to office through a coup. So all these groups, so this is what actually President George Weah was complaining about, President George Weah of Liberia. And he said that what they claim that we are going to invade and Niger and install democracy is laughable, because the people who are talking about invading or going to force democracy, they themselves are illegitimate, and majority of them have caused, have taken coup, have caused the institutional coup, have carried out institutional coup in their various countries. So George Weah of Liberia was actually laughing at this, this particular adventure which they were, and he is part of course, ECOWAS. So I think this is what is failing the ECOWAS itself, that the resolutions themselves from ECOWAS, military heads of chief of staffs, are laughable, and they look like they are wobbling. On top of that, we see that there's a repeated now voice by Algeria. The president of Algeria has come out again to speak against this adventure, which is being pushed by Nigeria. The president of Nigeria said just a few hours ago that it is unacceptable. He cannot accept this adventure in Niger, and he said that if Niger is attacked, he came out outright and said it on TV, that if Niger is attacked, he will not have an option but to support the side which is being attacked, because he doesn't want any instability in the region, because Niger is sharing a border with Algeria. And of course, we spoke about Algeria in our earlier analysis, that Algeria is very terrified that there will be an influx of refugees from Niger to go to Nigeria. They will put, of course, economic pressure on the economy of Algeria. So this is a threat to him. So that is why he thinks that it will be unacceptable for them to attack, and he will just see it by. And of course, we know that Algeria is a very strong country militarily, that Nigeria cannot even, stand up against Algeria. So this is what we are seeing. And what came out, of course, is what I mentioned, that they said they still have the military option on the table. But if we look at it, if we are forward looking enough, we can see that it is not, it is unlikely that there will be any military, solution to this problem. The only solution that is remaining right now is the diplomacy. We have to use diplomacy to be able to solve this problem. So that is what we are seeing currently, in this situation that is going on.
Thank you, Kwame, for that. A new development on that one is that it is Sheikh Arabi who shared with us Naledi Pandora of the foreign minister of South Africa actually asked for a diplomatic solution for the Niger problem. Yeah, so that will make South Africa to be added on that list of with Algeria and some of part of other countries in Ecowas who haven't said anything. Actually, there is no one who asked for a diplomatic solution. Either they are silent or they are upfront in
I think
using military. And Ghana also, I mean, although Nana Akufo-Addo has been silent, but I don't think they will be how do you say shy to contribute military. For me, I will add him in the category of Senegal, Nigeria, and which was it Benin who said who will contribute military?
I think I think that Madame Naledi Pandor, what they have done, what South Africa is doing, is the right thing, because that is what we have been waiting for. Of course, the president of Algeria has also insisted that it has to be a diplomatic solution, not a military solution. So these increasing voices, I think they have added, an impetus to the narrative of a diplomatic solution. So the voice that now is missing is the East African region. I think that the East African region also has to add its voice. People like Museveni, I think they should add their voices, or even Ruto, President Ruto can add his voice. President Samia Suluhu, I mean, she's always keeping quiet majority of the time, but I think she needs to add her voice also. So the East African region, the North has added its voice from the president of Algeria. The South has added a voice. I think the Central and the East needs to add a voice, because ECOWAS somewhat is looking misguided and discredited, even that the people now, they don't like it. The people, they hate it, if I may be plain. They don't believe in it, because people are looking at it as an organization which has decided to side with colonialists against its own people, because these so-called heads of state are more interested in, retaining power, even though majority of them, as we have rightly mentioned, they gained this power illegitimately, but they are claiming that they are Democrats, yet they gained this power and illegitimately, like how President George Weah of Liberia said, many of them, they carried out institutional coups, and they did these coups, and yet they are claiming that they are democracies, which is laughable and ridiculous. So I think that this misguided and discredited ECOWAS needs to be put in the right place, and everyone now on the continent needs to come and participate in this, in finding a solution to this crisis. And I think that the fact that Madame Naledi Pandor has added her voice, that means South Africa has added its voice, then it means that we are on the road to a diplomatic solution, and the military solution is completely out of the picture.
Okay, I wish we stay on this one, because also I have another development that we got from the influencers, activists from West Africa, actually from Senegal, a video of a NATO plane landing in Dakar in preparation for the war against Niger. And I just talked to this person before we come online now. He says it's very credible, and he's even happy to talk to us. But right now he's also live on his own platform. Why I bring this is that because you seem very optimistic about the diplomatic solution, but on the other hand, the NATO and the collective West is there nervous. They don't know what to do, because now Ecowas, they did not find Ecowas. Ecowas is not being instrumental as they hoped it to be. So what's your point? Very quickly.
On the side of NATO, I mean, on the side of Ecowas is the one I was talking about, the military solution. It is unlikely, because if the African heads of state put this under pressure, then it is unlikely to be a military solution. There's unlikely to be a military solution from ECOWAS. But now, when it comes to NATO, these people are sinister and they are very devilish and satanic in their approach, that they can come up with a solution to justify an invasion all the time. We have seen this in Iraq. We have seen this in Afghanistan. We have seen this in Libya. We saw this in Somalia. We have seen this in Vietnam in the 1960s. We have seen this numerous times in Latin America. Of course, many people, even right now, have been saying that Africa is the new Middle East. So that I've been seeing it, across some media platforms where people are saying that Africa is now the new Middle East. So that means that NATO can come up and say, oh, the junta is killing its own citizens, we have to go and rescue. But of course, we know that it's not about rescue. It's about what is at stake at this moment, that France is likely to have blackouts because of the lack of energy. It has been chased from, it has been chased from Niger, it has been chased from Mali, all where it has been extracting uranium to power its nuclear power plants. So the panic that we have been seeing on French media and Western media, that is the fear that they are going to start facing an energy crisis and blackouts, and people will start demonstrating in France, because for them, they are parasites who depend on Africa's resources. If Africa's resources don't exist, they cannot survive. So that is the panic that we are seeing. So it is possible that they can try to use that solution. Now, the fear here is that, the danger on our side as Africans is that the African heads of state are slow. And now a crack has developed between the African heads of state, that the small group which is saying that they should have a military solution, and we have another group which is saying that there should not be a military solution, and then we have another group which is supporting that there should be a military solution, but they are not contributing troops. And we have those who have completely neglected the situation and they are completely not talking about it. So the continent is now divided. So this leaves us vulnerable to some extent to the mechanizations, to the machinations of neocolonialism, in the same way that it happened, in Libya, that it brings about a situation whereby we are very slow to respond. It's the same situation that happened in Libya, that the African heads of state were manipulated at the UN, and we had South Africa, we had Nigeria voting against Libya and voting for a no-fly zone in Libya. South Africa and Nigeria. So this was a manipulation actually at the United Nations. Now, this left a division in the continent. This is how a crack was created in the continent, that to hear people like Museveni on the other side is saying that they were planning for a military solution into Libya with President Zuma, when Zuma is already the one who voted for a no-fly zone in Libya. I think this becomes very laughable, to a certain extent. So this is the danger now that Africa is facing. So it is this for NATO's military aggression is you cannot rule it out. You cannot rule it out as long as they get a gap through which they can, they can pass. Like what you mentioned, one of our Pan-Africanists said that NATO has already dispatched some military planes into, into Senegal. But even if they attack, this does not mean that it's going to be simple. Of course, they may attack and then pull in the Nigeria troops, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be simple for them on the other side, because we have already mentioned that Mali, Burkina Faso, they are on the side of Niger, and then Algeria also has said that it's not going to sit by if they are attacking. So this is now what we have. The situation is delicate. That the only, of course, danger we face here now is the death of our people through, a very deadly conflict that is likely to break out, because all sides will not be able to give in easily like that. And especially the side of Niger, they will not be able to give in easily. So there's a danger that for us, the only thing that we should be worried about is the death of our people, in huge numbers. We have seen where everywhere NATO goes, it kills people recklessly. Million people in Iraq, in Libya, when they came there, they destroyed the country and killed a lot of people, thousands of people, civilians. In Afghanistan, they killed a lot of civilians, in thousands and hundreds of thousands. They have killed it. So everywhere they just go, they kill. You just know that they are going to kill a lot of innocent people. So that's the only danger that we are facing right now.
Yeah, thank you, Kwame. As much as I really want to know about what the situation, the real situation looks like in Niger, and what are the people saying? I mean, I really wish we could bring people from the ground, but it has not been easy. But we have tried to reach out to some people. So let me just hold on that. But there's something that is really bugging my mind. The last statement, and I think the first statement we have seen from the African Union is on the day of the coup in Niger, where they condemned. After that, we haven't heard anything from AU. Actually, it's not the first time. The African Union usually becomes active when something happens in the other parts of the continent, in East, South, or Central. But when it comes to the in the north, not so much is happening, and they're quiet as well in the north. On the west, it's always Ecowas that is dominating. I don't know what kind of agreements they have, if there is one, but it looks like, AU is quiet and Ecowas is the one which is active. First of all, are they on the same page when it comes to Niger?
No, absolutely, they are not on the same page. When we look at ECOWAS, it issued a 7 days ultimatum for the reinstallation of President Mohamed Bazoum, as the president. And African Union issued an ultimatum of 14 days. So that in itself showed that they are not, and the African Union did not talk about a military solution. So it shows that the African Union was already on the page of diplomacy. The African Union, of course, it does not have an army, and Nigeria has an army, and ECOWAS has an army, ECOMOG. So the African Union can only play on the side of diplomacy. So that is what it is waiting for. And I believe that if we are talking about a diplomatic solution, African Union is going to play a very big role. It's going to come in and play a huge role. That is why you are seeing now Madam Naledi Pandor coming in and speaking about it, because now the African Union is preparing itself to play a major role. And this is, of course, this is a good thing.
Why do you connect Naledi Pandor's statement or stance, or South Africa's, with the African Union? The chairperson is not actually Comoros. What it has?
No, South Africa South Africa has a very big influence on the African Union. If you remember the ejection of Israel, it was South Africa which initiated this and rejected this. Why? Because South Africa has been very vocal because of its history. It has been vocal against the practices, for example, of Israel, of apartheid. So South Africa has, in a way, some sort of influence on the African Union. So that is why you are saying that I'm connecting her voice with the African Union, that voice of diplomacy, which is being currently pushed. And I think that it is a very good thing. It is a very good thing. The only problem we face is that the African Union is slow, as we have mentioned. It is slow, and it doesn't have a military solution to act. And of course, it is to a certain extent compromised, that it is taking money from the same imperialists who want to attack us, who are exploiting us, and who are now, when you go to the side of ECOWAS, ECOWAS is a complete sellout, as we have seen. That one you cannot, there's nothing to say that is just compromised. Is a complete sellout organization that is useless, completely useless, when it comes to the interests of the African people. So that is where they are differing now. So I think this is what they normally call, this is what is called dialectics. You have opposing views. On one side now, what we are seeing in the African Union is that you have some little desire of representing African interests. But then on the other side, you have imperialists paying for the organization. And of course, we have seen what the African Union did in South Africa during the Ethiopian crisis, when the rebels were disturbing in the north of the country in Ethiopia. So we saw that it played a major role. But it played this role, it was struggling within itself against the forces of imperialism, which we are trying to influence its way of acting. And then
I agree.
on the other side, the representation, representing the African interests. But fortunately, of course, during this period, the African interests were able to win. So that is the struggle there that is happening right now. So even to this point, the African Union is trying to come in with some sort of African interest, even though we saw that it was putting out misguided statements, which we are condemning the coup and saying this and that, here and there, of condemning the coup and saying they should put back bosom to power.
Thank you very much, Kwame, for that. I have a little my own theory for this, and perhaps you will help me in clarifying it. For example, why AU is not saying anything for me is the same why Chad, the odd country from odd actually, who opposes the military, given its background, its political background, the old country to oppose the military intervention in Niger. Now, that stance of Chad and AU being quiet is kind of similar for me, because Faki Mohammed himself is from Chad, and he very much reflects his country's interest in the commission. Why I say that, when Burkina Faso and Mali when that coup d'etat happened, he banned, I say he, sometimes it's very individual in these institutions, banned Mali and Burkina Faso from their membership, and including Guinea and Sudan, okay, for obvious reason. But the same thing happened in Chad when the son of Déby comes to power, but Chad was not banned, okay? So if you help us to understand why Chad has that position of opposing that military intervention, then maybe we will know what is the interest of AU. But this can wait, Let's go to Niger now. Okay, you want to reflect on that one? Okay, good.
Yeah. Let me just talk about it shortly. I think that you may speak about Faki in that way, but Faki that does not entirely run the African Union. And if he's approaching a certain situation, he's approaching it actually, carefully. He's approaching it with a lot of caution, because he first contacts, before he puts out any statement, he first contacts the chairperson of the African Union, not himself, because he is the chairperson of the African Union Commission. He has to contact the chairperson of the African Union, because he is a president, he's a head of state. So he has to find out the position of the heads of state across the continent before he puts out a statement. And of course, you are right. I'm not saying you are wrong to look at it this way. For Chad itself, I think that what was driving the motive behind the Chad's position, I think, is because Chad, the president in Chad himself, he knows that he came to power illegitimately. He came illegitimately. So I think this is it. You can read a lot in it, but I think it has to do with the guilt, with the guilt and understanding that he himself he did not come to power through voting, through democracy. So I think that he immediately realized that he has no right to, unless or unlike the other heads of state who are unashamed, like Ouattara, who was even at the meeting of the heads of state when they met, this, for him, he lacks any shame at all. You see, for him, he has no shame at all, completely no shame. And even people like Tinubu, the election is still being contested against in Nigeria, is still in court, but he's behaving as if he won the election by more than 70%. You see, even when many people are saying that the election in Nigeria was rigged for him, that it is Peter, Obi who won the election. So unlike these guys who don't have any shame at all, I think that the situation in Chad, the president in Chad, is driven by some amount of guilt because of the way he also came to power, and which way was not a legitimate means of ascending to power.
A very good one. I can buy that logic. Yeah, it's good, to reflect, and viewers, also our viewers, can engage in this. Now, let's go. We are talking about ECOWAS, the crack within, and the institution AU versus ECOWAS. Now, let's go really the core of it. What is happening in Niger? The last thing we have seen is that on August 3, their independence day, there was a lot of support and demonstration in support of the coup and condemning France, actually. And the interviews that have been made by different platforms, we have seen that the people are really for the one who took power now, and they want to kick out France, like all in all, including their military. Now, what's happening? What is the situation?
Yeah, so internally, the coup leaders have tried to mobilize the country. Over the weekend, they had a gathering. They mobilized a group of people who came to the stadium, and that stadium was named after a coup leader also. So they mobilized, and a crowd of people came up, to show support to them. In a stadium of almost around 30,000 people, it was filled, to the brim, and even other people remained outside. So it shows you that they are mobilizing. And some people are saying that they moved the troops because they are aware of I think you spoke about the mobilization by NATO in Senegal. They are very aware that some foreign countries, because the one of the coup spokesperson came out to speak about it yesterday and said that there is some foreign countries which are mobilizing to attack, but they are ready. They themselves are ready.
Foreign means non-African, they mean?
Yes, non-African. So he spoke about foreign countries which are organizing to attack, and then they are organizing with 2 African countries in ECOWAS. And I think that one he was talking about Nigeria and Senegal, which have already declared their intention to attack. And of course, we have Ivory Coast on the other side. So they mentioned that they are ready, and they closed off the airspace yesterday, because yesterday was the deadline which ECOWAS gave, that after 7 days, if they don't reinstate Bazoum, then they will attack. So the coup leaders say that we will not reinstall the man, we will not bring him back to power, and we have decided to close off the airspace. The United States, Italy also removed some of their troops from Niger, and they sent them to Europe. Yeah, so that is the situation. The situation is quite tense within Niger. is quite tense, and they, from the look of things, it looks like right now we are in some sort of stalemate, whereby no one knows what is coming next. Yeah, no one knows what is coming next, because the other side, they are saying that they are ready to take it on, and then there's increasing warnings from Algeria, like how we mentioned. Algeria doesn't see any point in attacking, that they are reinstalling, because it will cause a lot of chaos within the Sahel, and it will cause a lot of instability. And of course, the people who are funding this instability, they are foreigners, they are across the Atlantic, the United States, and the Europeans on the other side. So I think that Africans, we have to step up. We should not fall for this. We should step up our efforts in trying to settle this situation by ourselves, and reject any interference within the continent, because as we have mentioned repeatedly, and as history has shown repeatedly, everywhere the European goes, expected death, and destruction. Everywhere the Americans and the Europeans and the white people go, expected death and destruction of countries and people, total destruction of nations. So I think we should take the lessons from history if we are very serious people as Africans, and if we want to see a free Africa.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kwame, for that. Now, you know, this sometimes challenge bring opportunity, meaning, you know, this, it's unfortunate what's happening in Niger, or what's about to happen if these people go in their madness and do something. But again, on the other side of it, it has brought us, you know, Africans, Pan-Africans, you know, to unite again, united and defending Niger, regardless of what our heads of states are talking and, you know, saying. Do you think we have used the opportunity good enough? If this is really, if usually it's this kind of moments that bring us together, that unite us. So are we really exhaustively used the opportunity, or we are, you know, just scattered here and there, and we're not doing what is expected from us to be done?
Yeah, I think the Pan-Africanists have to step up their efforts. I mean, all of us, because I'm also a Pan-Africanist. So we have to step up our, effort in engaging the continent, and engaging those groups which have shown interest in in protecting the interests of the African people and working for the African people. I think we have to step up our effort. We have to step up our pressure. We have to step up our determination, and of course working together, because this is the most important thing. If there is any challenge, within the progressive part of us as Africans, if there is any challenge, is that challenge of harmonizing the forces that are supposed to fight against imperialism, and fast enough to the point that we should be able to respond. Like how I said that the problem with Libya is that it was attacked because the people who were talking about a solution, an African solution, were not able to respond fast enough. And of course, those were part of the African Union. They were not able to respond fast enough. So the challenge right now that is we are facing as Pan-Africans is that we have now to respond as fast as possible. We have to reorganize our forces as fast as possible to respond to this threat of imperialism and its arrogance and its lies, of course, which it is spreading. That is, it is fighting for democracy. It is not fighting for democracy, because that is not true. It has not been true in the Middle East, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. It has not been true in Somalia in 1993. It has not been true in Latin America. These people are just greedy people, very dangerous people, and we need to mobilize, by any means necessary to be able to protect our continent. So the other thing which I can think of is that I think that the coup leaders in Niger, if they are really serious about protecting the interests of the African people, I think they have now to call on to the other African youth, those ones who want to help, in the struggle so that they can be able, this will help to mobilize the whole continent. They have to call, they have to put out a call and say,
Yeah.
if you are out there and you are a youth, you want to participate in this, come on and participate, and let us be able to fight this imperialism all together as Africans, and then to be able to uproot neocolonialism that is eating up the continent's resources, neocolonialism that is eating up the resources which belong to the Africans. And of course, while pretending that it is advancing democracy at the same time, while depriving the Africans, and they are dying in the ocean, and people are dying in the hospitals without without medicine, and imperialism is eating while it is telling us that that is the democracy that we should accept. So I think that it is time for the Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, while they come together, to mobilize all the youth, like what they did over the weekend, to mobilize all the youth to come and show their support to the coup leaders. They need to mobilize the whole continent in the same way and put out these messages, so that the youth who want to go and participate in the struggle to defeat this imperialism should go. The other thing I can think of is, of course, what Madame Lale Dipando has already done, South Africa has done, and I think that the other African states also have to put out their voices. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, all these countries, Ethiopia, it has to put out its voice. Of course, we know Ethiopia already has still some challenges within, but I think the voice has to be put out there. Central Africa itself, Congo, the Democratic Republic, Angola rarely speaks. So we want to hear Angola speaking. We want to hear Namibia speaking. We want to hear, Botswana speaking about these things. We want to hear Zimbabwe. We want to hear Zimbabwe speaking about these issues, instead of all of them just keeping quiet and closing their mouth as if they can't speak, about these issues, which are very important and are likely, if a war breaks out, are likely to destabilize the whole continent. So this is what we want to see, and I think that this is what we should be calling for as Africans across all the continent. Thank you very much, Mahlet.
Thank you very much, Kwame, for that. For us, these are the things that we wanted to cover on Niger for tonight. But of course, as we are very much flexible, and it's all about knowledge for us. It's all about bringing you a research-based information and setting our narrative straight as a Pan-African media platform. That's what we want. That's what our duty is. So I'm going to go to the comment section, but also I have a question, okay, for you, something that we have not planned. Tell me, I mean, we talked about it, but really we did not plan to do it today. It relates with what you said. You're optimistic. I'm a Pan-African. I'm also optimistic and hopeful. And I know that how mobilizing works coming from Ethiopia. I know how your leaders, the heads of state, when they call upon their people, it changes something, so it really works that way. And if the Niger, the leader, what is his name, General Chichiani, if he can make that call, the African youth, the Pan-Africanists are already, prominent figures like Julius Malema has reached out. So many are talking about in support of the people of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, but he needs to make that call. But tell me, while we see so much military bases of Africa in the continent, and also the French military everywhere, in mostly in West Africa, I don't know, North Africa, how can we be able, even if an attack comes, we will be able to defend? I mean, it just makes me hopeless thinking how we are so invaded by those foreign militaries.
Yeah, so of course, what the military bases are here for, you can talk of all the military bases which are present, have been present in Niger. You can speak of Canada. It has, troops in there. Germany, it has troops. France has troops. The United States has troops and a military base over there. Italy has troops over there. Belgium also was having troops. So close to to 7 countries we're having troops in Niger. So why they are there is because they want the resources, and Niger is somewhat in the middle of the African continent. So from Niger you can reach majority of the parts, or majority of the parts of the continent. Majority parts of the continent. If you are in Niger, you can easily reach them. That is why they are there, so that they can easily be able to respond to any resistance, so to any rejection, to any uh, you know uh, uh, resistance against European domination. So if anyone is trying to organize and resist their domination, that is why they had chosen Niger, and that is why you are hearing today a lot of alarm. They are very alarmed because they are being ejected out of Niger, and of course they would. It's possible that they would choose maybe another place like Gabon and go to Gabon, because France also has a lot of influence there, or even go to Ghana where there's a puppet called Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. So they can go to all these places where these puppets are. But what they are looking for, of course, is Africa's resources, not democracy. I think that should be very clear in the minds of the youth. And I think that the youth have already realized that. That is why the youth have woken up, to these realities. It's just that the situation has been looking very bleak, that the youth have not been seeing a way out. How should we approach this situation? So when the youth see that someone like the military like that has come out, they see this as an opportunity to come out to be able to support. But what the United States wants and its European allies is the resources. That is why you see that France is panicking, because it is likely to have energy problems if it doesn't have access to this uranium. The United States is the same. What they are looking for is to covet Africa's resources. And of course, the United States already is a big country with a relatively manageable population. So what is driving the United States is just greed, complete greed. That is what is driving them, and that's what is driving all the other European. The Europeans, a major is the lack of resources, because Europe doesn't have these resources. So they are looking at using all means. But when you look at countries like Canada, is a big enough country. They have enough resources. So what for them, what is driving them is just greed, complete greed, for what doesn't belong to them, and the fact that Europeans have always had this entitled, mentality. They have this entitled mentality that they feel that the resources of Africa belong to them. And so that's what we see in South Africa, that a few whites, they think that they should control the land in South Africa, while the majority of the Africans who own this land, they should be in the slums, and they should not own anything in the country. So this is what is majorly driving the United States. So all these, we are there to fight insurgents. The insurgents, first of all, who brought them, to the Sahel is the United States and France, and their allies. It is not Africa who brought these insurgents. So these are all justifications that they are there to fight insurgents and terrorists. Terrorists, if we may ask them a question, who brought these terrorists? These terrorists were brought by the United States and the Europeans with the attack on Libya and destruction of Libya. Before the destruction of Libya, we didn't have these problems, to this extent. So these are all lies that are used to justify the exploitation. They want to exploit, they want to covet Africa's resources, they want to take Africa's resources by force. But I think right now they are facing huge challenges because they have met opposition, serious opposition, and that is why you are seeing that they are in panic mode right now.
Yeah. It's a topic by itself. Those Islamic insurgents, how the resurfacing of or the surfacing of AFRICOM in that region, and also the French military have become even more topical, which was non-existent before. But of course, we all, I don't know. This is what I said. We are, I don't know, short memory that we have, or we don't do our own research. And
so the other thing I think is that the British and the French are likely to have a conflict. I saw a publication yesterday on BBC where BBC was blaming France and saying that France is the one which is causing instability in the region. And this is simply because France has a lot of interests in Nigeria. So it sees France's aggression in the region as unwanted. So they are likely also to have within themselves some sort of a conflict, because now they are facing a conflict. What you can say conflict of interests now is likely to arise, and this is what happened actually even during World War One. Even when you go back to World War Two, World War One, and World War Two, and this is where the Africans actually continue to get a gap to be able to liberate themselves from slavery and colonialism. So to a certain extent, you can see that they have started now disagreeing, and of course we remember that Britain jumped out of the European Union. It was all these disagreements. So these disagreements are also starting to rear their head. We are starting to see them. And I saw that article from the BBC, implicating France, that France is the one causing instability. So that should point us, to the fact that they already have cracks in the European Union. And of course, we have seen in the past, Italy, the prime minister, the current prime minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, blaming, Macron, that he's been stealing Africa's resources. France has been stealing Africa's resources. The children in Burkina Faso, they mine the gold while France is becoming rich. They take the uranium from Niger. She spoke of Niger actually, even before she became the prime minister, before even this coup happened. And she was saying that France is stealing Niger's uranium, and the people in Niger don't have electricity. So all these things, they show that the European Union itself is not cohesive, in what is happening there. So they also have challenges within. But of course, what happened in Niger is very dangerous for them. It's very challenging because the United States wants to have that military base there where it will be flying drones all across the African continent and intimidating and bossing, because this military base, where this drone base gives the United States ability to patrol the whole continent, because our continent, majority of the African countries, they don't have the capability, the radar, or to be able to see these drones if they are in their airspace. So the United States now can be able to enforce its colonialism. That is why it is very terrified. Is very, it has developed a lot of anxiety, because it will be ejected from this and it will not be able to carry out these surveillance activities and espionage activities across the African continent. So that is the fear that is coming from the United States also on the other side.
Yeah, thank you. Well explained. Now let's go to through the comments. Thank you all for tuning in. Aaron Black, Sheikh Arabi, Ciendes, Anton Dalema. Who else we have? Yeah, let me see if I'm missing an SM. Thank you. And Jawari, did I read some name like that? Yeah, but thank you all really for being here. Africans, Aaron says, Africans have been deceived by regional and continental integrations, and I believe it's time to reconsider their purpose and mission. How about you, Kwame? What do you think of my suggestion? Meaning, they have been deceived by regional and continental integration, and which suggestion? I don't know. It's not clear for me. Sheikh says people are saying that this coup favors NATO by weakening Macron's position in Africa. France's main source of energy is nuclear power. To stabilize the situation, Niger has to set some deal about uranium. I don't know. They all profit out of war in Africa. Siende says Algeria and South Africa. This is a good one. Algeria and South Africa have very similar foreign policy positions when it comes to continental issues. It seems like they coordinate a lot behind the scenes. I don't want to. Okay, this one's about briefs. Sheikh, we noted. Okay, your information. Anton said spoke with a francophone neighbor, meaning he or she spoke with a francophone neighbor who says there is a total consensus in French media, French and Quebec, behind colonial interests, meaning all the French people support these colonial interests. Is that what you're saying? NATO is a crime against humanity. Total global dominance is force behind Euro-colonial projects. Anton said Israel supplied missile that took Samora Michel out of the sky. Aaron asked Kwame, what is your anchor state who serves the interest of Western countries? In Africa, I think there are many of them, but I leave that okay for Kwame. Senegal president arrested the Senegal president is arresting all the opposition leaders. Yeah. What else? Okay. Chad neighbors Niger. This is saying this. Any instability in Niger will affect Chad directly, and this risks kicking Deby out of power. Remember, there have been protests in Chad against current head of state. Okay. I think there's no question. You all are contributing to what's to the subject. The economies of the collective West are collapsing, hence the blame game and finger pointing among themselves. Yeah, this is Italy, UK, and the one you mentioned on France. Nobody wants to take responsibility for anything, and I wish they can, if they can stand up, like Prime Minister of Italy can, the same way she was angry and fierce against Macron. I hope they will be able, EU will be able to tell him to stop what he's doing. I don't think nobody has a gut to do that. Yeah. Okay, France cannot do anything even if they want to. Neither can Ecowas. Algeria has already said anywhere in Niger is a threat to Algeria, and they will not allow that. And Algeria is an ally of Russia. Okay. That's it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you very much. Really interesting engagement and comments, suggestions. We all thank you for that. And please don't forget to subscribe, to like, and to share. When the stream is over, please share the link to your network, to your friends. We really have to reach out as many as possible, so that we can set our narrative. Otherwise, if we are just keeping it between ourselves, then it doesn't serve the purpose. Kwame, unless if you have any closing remarks, that was it for me. Thank you. Tomorrow again we will be here. I think there was someone, was it Aaron or Black, who suggested to talk on the colonial agreements of France, the 11 colonial agreements with the Western African countries. So tomorrow we will dive into it in a very, very detailed way. So be here. We will share the link during the day tomorrow, and share it before you come here so that we can have many people live. Thank you again for all your support. Yeah, Aaron, it's you. So we will tackle it tomorrow. So if you have any question, actually send me via email. I will put it here, or it's in the description section also. Please, you can send your question. Thank you very much, and bye-bye. Yeah. Thank you, Kwame. Bye. Yeah.